Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Rangers review special, if you like, an anniversary special as we look back on one of the greatest results in the club's, I was going to say European history, but probably the entire history when they went to Dortmund and beat Borussia Dortmund 4-2 in their own backyard. I'm delighted to say I'm speaking to one supporter who watched it unfold over in Germany on that wonderful evening. Jamie Brown. How are we doing, Jamie?
Yeah, very well, Derek. Thanks for having us on and give us a chance to talk about that night. It seemed to just come and go at the time because it was a heavy schedule, but dusting off the cobwebs and digging out the photos and watching the highlights back today was a pleasure. So, no, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, it's crazy to think it's 12 months ago today. It seems like a lifetime ago now. A lot has happened since then, and nobody, I think, could envisage what the run that Rangers were about to go on when they headed over to Dortmund. Just for people maybe unfamiliar with yourself, Jamie, of course, you're based down south. You're the World Ranger on Twitter. I'm sure a lot of people interact with you on there. Can you give us a little bit of background about you, the club down there, and your history of following Rangers?
Yeah, so in terms of history of following Rangers, I think I've had my season tickets since 1994, 95, so the year Gaza signed.
Yeah.
My dad wasn't letting me miss out on that, so up the road we went, and yeah, haven't really looked back, to be honest. Obviously got decent offers in terms of going to watch Everton or Liverpool, obviously very local. Tranmere is actually the closest club, but there was, as soon as you know what it's like, as soon as you go to Rangers, there's no turning back, so... Yeah, season ticket up there, and then in terms of myself, me and my dad go to as many home games as we can by the train or drive up. We previously went up with the Stoke-on-Trent Rangers Supporters Club and the Liverpool number one. And a few years ago, we decided to start our own wee supporters club. It was more of a, to be honest, just create a facility for people to come and watch the games. Like my mum just wanted us kicked out the house, so it was almost a case of right, where can me and my dad go? And there's a wee social club in our local village, so I approached them, and there was a space upstairs, so we just converted that into a Rangers room over the last 6 years, I think we've been going now, and built up a nice little community, circa 75 members. We've had some cracking nights in there. We had Marvin Andrews in a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, that was a success. So it's going from strength to strength, to be honest. And we've got good friends and supporters clubs up in Scotland that came down for the Liverpool game a few months back as well. So yeah, it's going well. So we'll see what the future holds.
Yeah, superb, wonderful. So in terms of following Rangers and European action, Jamie, before the Dortmund game, you travelled quite a lot following the club abroad?
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, you actually got me into counting how many European or worldwide trips I've done. So that was at 34 I'm up to now.
Wow.
So it's an expensive hobby, but it's always worth it. Every trip brings something completely different, whether it was the Florida Cup with SpongeBob SquarePants or trying to get over the Greek-Macedonian border, going to watch Skopje. It's every trip's completely different. And as you say, the Dortmund one was super special for obvious reasons.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously it was still in the midst of the whole COVID and lockdown and what have you. I think Rangers were quite late in terms of the pickup of tickets and the allocation and what have you. Was it a late call for you guys to decide if you're going to Germany? How did it all come about?
Yeah, I think, well, you know what it's like yourself. Well, as soon as the draw gets done, you kind of go, well, shall we, shouldn't we? And then you look at all the routes. Obviously, the flight straight into Dortmund were extortionate, I think. The nearest route was into Dusseldorf, so we priced it up, a wee bit. Where we did have a wee bit of hope was the size of the stadium. What we weren't expecting at the time was how big the crowd was going to be. Yeah. So as soon as we booked the flights, hotels in Dusseldorf, and then sorted transport to get to and from the ground, it was we were good to go. And then from a ticket perspective, I'm a bit bitter over the whole MyJair situation, but I won't go into that because I wasn't far off max travel club points, which I keep reminding the SLO every time I see him. So yeah, wasn't fortunate enough to get an official ticket, but managed to get one through the football family, if you will. So a Liverpool fan that I worked with was over there a few years ago when Liverpool played, and he made contact with a guy and he passed me on his number. But he made a few calls, and next thing you know, I've managed to get tickets for me, my dad, and my brother in the home end. So we were behind enemy lines, so to speak.
Yeah, have you done that before? I done it when it was when they played Brøndby, that same campaign actually in that group stage in the Europa League, and it was uncomfortable to say the least. When Hadji scored, it was trying hard not to celebrate in case I get battered. But what was it like behind enemy lines? Is that something you've done before?
Yeah, I've done it a couple of times. I'm trying to think where we've done it, but I think I've been into a few grounds where there's been no segregation as well. So I think it's one of them. If you're sitting with football fans, as long as you're not taking the mix, so to speak, and being respectful, they don't tend to bother you, because you probably do stick out like a sore thumb, especially in some of the places we've been. But if you just get your head down, as I say, I've been quite fortunate over the years with me being in the travel club and being up to pretty much max points. It was almost a case of I was pretty much guaranteed the ticket at that point. So I haven't done too many behind, but this one was definitely unique, so to speak, especially for the fact that the ground was half empty as well, 3/4. Yeah. So to get a home ticket I'd done well there. So
yeah, absolutely. So I mean, when the draw was made, Jamie, Borussia Dortmund, Rangers get drawn against. I mean, it was great that Giovanni van Bronckhorst was fully in the door by this point. His first game, I think, beat it's the Slavia Prague, wasn't it? 2-0. Was it Sparta Prague? Keep getting those mixed up, but made it through to the next round. You get drawn against Dortmund, the tournament favourites, you could say. What are you thinking heading over to Germany? Do you think we've got a chance, or is it just a case of sampling it, the experience, and thinking this is as far as Rangers are going to get?
I don't know. I don't know if that's in a Rangers fan's DNA, is it, to go over anywhere and just expect to be rolled over? So it was almost a case of, right, let's go over there and do what we've done in Europe. Do you know what I mean? We played some really good sides over the last few years, and teams that we probably, you look back now and you go, that was a good Porto team that we challenged home and away. It was a good Benfica team. I mean, Darwin Núñez rocks up at Liverpool for however 70 odd million, whatever it was. If you look at some of the players we played in them Europa League games over the years, I don't think we should really go into any games fearing anyone. Now, whether you'd ask me that after the Champions League campaign might be a different conversation, but it did have a different feel. It almost felt as if, right, this is a Champions League team now that we're playing. This team should be in the Champions League. Obviously, Haaland was one that it's one of them. You look forward to seeing them, but you're ever so glad when when they're not there. And they actually had a boy on the bench that had the long blonde hair, and I thought, oh, here we go, he's going to be on the bench here, but fortunately he never made it. But yeah, it was as I say, you know yourself sometimes, especially the European trips, you're going for the trip, and sometimes the football can be a distraction, but this was definitely going to be one that you were looking forward to seeing, the ground, the atmosphere, the city, and as I say, we've seen more of it than we expected.
Yeah, just prior to the game then, did you spend a wee bit of time in Dortmund with fellow Rangers fans and what have you?
Yeah. So we flew into Dusseldorf. I think it was I'm sure it was match. Yeah, it was match day. Was it match day? Yeah, match day. We flew in. But when we landed, were you there, Derek? Were you over or?
I wasn't over there. No,
there was an earthquake and high wind warning in Germany. So that all the train service was off. I don't know if that was common knowledge back home, but so it was straight into solution mode. And I think in the end, we had like a wee minibus. I think it was a wee 10-seater or something. And there was Rangers fans just come out the train station, just looking out the airport. Just looking lost because the train station was shut. So I managed to fill that. I think it was 150 euros or something. So, and again, back to the football family, the Rangers family, people that jumped in the back of the bus that day, I'm in really good contact with now. So little Alan from Blackpool and the lad wee Jamie from up the road. It was almost the case of we've kept in contact on the back of it. But yeah, so that was Dusseldorf up to the hotel. So we threw the bags in the hotel, and then we managed to give the lad another 200 euros. Then he battered us up to Dortmund, dropped us off on the outskirts, and then we walked through them from the main train station into the square. There was a square with just different bars dotted about. So as you do, a couple of local German lagers. I still didn't have my tickets in hand at this point.
Right, okay.
So a wee bit nervy dealing with, I think the guy's name was Mustafa and he was originally from Turkey, but he was living in Germany. But there he is, old Mustafa with the brown envelope, and exchanged the cash, and tickets were good to go. But it was an unusual circumstance as well, because you needed to have your COVID vaccines, you needed to have COVID passports. The guy was saying if you do try and word of there will be a risk, it kind of came with a disclaimer, is if your COVID ID doesn't match the name on the ticket, that's where you might get pulled. But he was like, it's up to you if you want to take the risk, but it was definitely a risk worth taking.
Yeah. So, I mean, walking up to the ground, were you a tad nervous then about that, and then walking amongst the Dortmund fans?
Not really, because there was Rangers. Rangers did have a wee allocation, so it was almost a case we headed up with them, and then it wasn't up until we got up to the ground, up to the gate. I think the Rangers fans were a couple of sections down, so it was almost a case of, I mean, they could speak perfect English, all the stewards and everything, so there was no issues there. And then in we went, so it was almost a case of, I think I sent my dad in first, because I thought if he gets pulled, we're all getting pulled. And then my little brother went in, and then I was at the back. And I thought it'd be just like the thing for me to get the LKO. But I just remember it was a young blonde girl, German girl, could probably speak about 4 or 5 languages. And she was like, you could tell she was just looking to be happy to help. There was no growling or nothing. It was almost the case, have you got your ID? Yes. Have you got your COVID ID? Yes. Have you got your match ticket? Yeah, in we go. So it was, they never checked the ID against the ticket, fortunately. They just checked your ID against your COVID passport, because all eyes were on that at the time. And bear in mind, the masks were on and stuff as well. So it was a relief to get in there, I'll tell you.
Yeah, it's crazy to think what the world was like back then. In terms of the ground then, of course, it wasn't anywhere near full, Jamie, but what did you make of the surroundings and the stadium itself? It's quite an iconic ground, of course. Ibrox itself, it was modelled on it back in the day. But what did you make of it when you walked in there?
Yeah, super impressive. It was one of them stadiums where you step out of the stairs and you just go, wow. The yellow wall just seemed to go on forever. When you're looking at a stand and you're thinking you wouldn't want to try and dig somebody out in there in terms of trying to find them. Sometimes you can eyeball a stand and quickly put your eyes to someone. I've got to say, first thing we said when we were sitting down was it would be great to come back here and have a beer and watch a game with the full crowd, which I think we'll probably definitely do in years to come. But yeah, disappointing at the fact that there wasn't the full atmosphere, but I think we made a bit of an atmosphere for ourselves based on the performance on the pitch anyway. Yeah,
absolutely. Rundown, I mean, Rangers lined up that night, McGregor in goals, Tavernier, Goldson, Bassey, I would miss him, Barisic at the back, Jack and Lundstrom in the middle, with Arfield, Aribo and Kent supporting Morelos up top. Just give you an idea of that Dortmund side again. It was Kobel in goal, Akanji, Hummels, Zagadou and Guerrero at the back, Dahoud and Witzel in the middle, Brandt, Royce and Bellingham supporting Malin up top. When you seen the Rangers team, Jamie, what did you think? Were you quite happy with that?
Yeah, I remember. I think the only one that was worrying me was Bassey at centre half. In hindsight, it's turned out to be potentially the best move that could have happened. That night probably transformed his life, and certainly transformed us financially in terms of having an asset there that we were able to go on and push out. And to be honest, it was if somebody had said to you probably in the December, right, you're going to lose Calvin Bassey for 20 odd million in the summer, you'd have probably laughed them out the stadium. But no, he came of age that night, and everyone to a man just played really well. And we'll get to the performance in a second, but if you went through the team from memory on the night, I thought it had everything that we needed. It had a little bit of dig. We had Scotty Arfield was in there, so you knew you were going to get legs. Lundstrom, Jack, Ryan Kent on a Thursday night, and Alfie was looking sharp as well. So it was it was set up for it was one of them. Sometimes when you go into these games, you're almost a wee bit worried if the player's going to get a wee bit starstruck given the situation, but you knew you had an 11 on the pitch that were up for it, and they've been around the block a few times in Europe and some good performances. So yeah, no, we were good to go.
Yeah, Tavernier, of course, bangs at the first goal in from the penalty spot. What's the feeling when that goes in? Just a bit of delirium in the stands, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it was, well, obviously we had to be quite discreet. One because one because you didn't want to showboat, but two, you knew there was enough quality there that if you made a bit of a fool of yourself, they could be quite quickly laughing right back at you. So there was a bit of confusion from the first goal. From memory, obviously it was a VAR penalty incident, and we hadn't really had that many VAR incidents prior to that, really high profile. So when you're at the game, it's just utter confusion. My first reaction was, who's Alfredo Morelos punched off the ball? I'm thinking, we're going down to 10 men here, something's happened. And then the referee went away, pointed to the spot. And yeah, it was a stone waller when you see it back. We started the game really well. I mean, we should have been 1-0 up in the first, I think it was in the first 10 minutes. I think Barisic had a good run down the left-hand side and cut in. So I remember thinking that was our chance for the game. So to then get a penalty and Tavernier slotting away, it was a great start.
Yeah, it certainly was, and wouldn't have to wait long for goal number 2, and it was Morelos with the second. When that goes in, how difficult was it not to jump about when you seen that one going?
Yeah, obviously that front post that we've seen quite a lot, the flick on from Aribo. That was one where you kind of going, oh, this is interesting. And then because the whole time you're thinking, right, 2-0, all we've got to do is just play our game. Maybe obviously take the edge off in terms of trying to keep the score as competitive as we can. Because I think that's what we all obviously went out with a view of, you dare to dream, to think, right, if we go here and get something. So to get the second one, you almost think that team at the time, you thought, if we can build ourselves and be solid like we have been in Europe, we've got a chance here of getting through tonight. So to be 2-0 up was good. As I say, didn't get too carried away at 2-0 because of the quality that we were up against, but 2-0 was definitely a good position to be in.
Yeah, and of course, half time comes. Spoken to other fans that were there, Jamie, and they said that some Rangers fans that were in the home end made their way over to the away section, and the German security were quite happy to let them in. Did you guys just stay put where you were?
Yeah, well, we did, because we actually ended up in hospitality. So where we were sitting in just normal standard seats, and then I think I needed the toilet or something, so I wandered into this door that was open, and a woman pointed to my arm, so like I showed her my watch, and I thought she was asking for the time, so I've told her the time, and then walked in, thought nothing of it, and I'm looking around and I'm thinking, everyone in here has got a beer and like hot dogs or whatever. So straight up to the bar, so I thought, right, 3 beers please, and then give them, but I could just see people were walking up and grabbing them. So grabbed my 3 beers, went like that with money, and they just kind of looked at me and they shook their head. So walked away, got a table, phoned me dad and my brother, said, right, I've got us a table here with beers, and it must be in with the ticket. Anyway, they got knocked back at the door. So that was me. That was me having to drink 3 beers before that was actually before the match. Then at half time, managed to get in and managed to smuggle another few out for us. So but back to my point earlier, them little stories and them little things pop up when you're on these trips. But no, so we kept ourselves to ourselves. But the ground itself and the fans, you could just see they were just in shell shock. At the performance, and the obviously how we dominated as well. They had a few half chances in the first half, but we were playing really well at the time.
Yeah, and then of course Wonderland stuff when John Lundstrom fires that goal in right-footed after great work from Ryan Kent shortly after half-time. 3-0, you're up in Dortmund. Jamie, what are you thinking then?
Yeah, I think that was the first time where it was almost like, right, it was smiles, because I think there was a few Rangers fans, say, behind enemy lines in front of us, and they made it aware who they supported. But then I think I jumped up, and almost like, because it was such a good goal. It wasn't like the obviously the penalty where you can compose yourself a wee bit, or the second one, obviously a good move from a corner, but the third one was an absolute cracker. And you could actually, where we were sitting, you could just see the move unfolding, and Lundstrom made a cracking run from the halfway line and buried it to the far corner. And obviously they ran away to the Rangers fans, so there was a few more celebrations and a few high fives dealt out, like, so it was good.
Yeah, it was dreamland stuff. Of course, Jude Bellingham would score shortly after. He scores that goal. You're thinking the comebacks on, of course, that they're littered with quality, Jamie. And Jude Bellingham was one that really shone in both legs. I thought he was a class act. What you think about when that goes in?
Yeah, I mean, just a call out for Bellingham. Not that he needs me to big him up, but he was fantastic. There's certain players when you go to a football match that just light up a pitch, and you could just say they just look levels ahead. I remember Gascoigne, watching Gascoigne when I was younger. He would always go, "This guy can just switch it off and on like a tap," and every time you could just see he was so powerful, quick. And what surprised me of how much of a leader he was within that team. I think he's gone on to be captain quite a few times for the club, but you could just see that he was the star man for them. And first thing you do is once that one goes in, you look at the clock. And I remember thinking, "Oh, this is going to be a long 35 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever it was." But I'm sure we'll get to it. But it wasn't much longer until we were extended our lead again. So yeah, it was good, but it was a wee bit nervy for that little period.
Yeah, certainly was. But just a few minutes later, Aribo slipped in Morelos, I'm sure it was. He had a strike that was chilling mind, but it took a nick off Zagadou, the Dortmund defender, and rolled into the net. It was ruled out momentarily, but it went to VAR, of course, and it was given as a goal. So 4-1, you're thinking, Jamie, you must be thinking at that point here, this is on. We're on for a cracking result here.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, everybody kind of gone back to the halfway line, and then Morelos, when the award got given, because it was Arfield looked quite far advanced as it happened. When you look it back, it didn't look too bad because Morelos had the initial shot, and then Morelos ran from the halfway line. The cameras actually didn't pick it up that well, but Morelos ran the full half and jumped in front of the Rangers fans. Neil McCann probably would have been going mad at this point. But Alfie certainly enjoyed it, and you could just tell at that point you've seen quite a few Dortmund fans get up and walk. It was almost a case of this just isn't our night. Wow. But it was really good. And then, as I say, Aribo had a chance a couple of minutes later. He fired one just past the post, and you thought, imagine if we'd have gone that far ahead. But no, it was definitely good. But again, we look at the clock to see, right, how long have we got to hold off here with this?
Yeah, and of course, Guerrero scores late on a decent strike from him, to be fair, 4-2. Again, is it one of those when he scores, just clock watching again and just sort of praying for full time? Are you quite content with a 4-2, or are you still thinking Dortmund are a quality side? We need another goal, sort of thing.
I think on the night, no, you just want to get out of there at that point. The fact we'd have probably taken not to say we wouldn't have accepted it, but realistically, they'd probably taken losing by a goal or coming out there with a draw. So to come out there with a 2-goal lead, I don't think you could be maybe a wee bit greedy to ask for any more. But what was so encouraging was just the performance. We didn't look out of. We looked as if we deserved to be there. I can't think of McGregor having too much to do on the night. I thought the back four was absolutely solid, and Lundstrom and Jack Arfield to put a hell of a shift in. The whole team on the night, I think everyone was an 8 or a 9 out of 10. It was that good of a performance. But yeah, as you say, for the last few minutes, just clock watching, and then I think Big Mac Hummels had a chance towards the end. Where he blazed over, and that was kind of the relief. So that was it. We've done it type of thing. So good.
Class. What was the scenes at full time? I mean, with yourselves and the Rangers supporters there, is it a sense of a disbelief and shock, or are you just in party mode at that point in time?
Yeah, I think it was, well, because you could get a drink during the game. It was party mode, to be honest. I think it was almost a case of we really enjoy it. I mean, obviously where we were sitting, we could see the Rangers fans really going for it, giving it Yaldi. And then from our perspective, more Rangers fans came out the woodwork once that final whistle went, because it was like, well, if you're going to throw us out, crack on. So the flags and everything were out then. So the old loyal flag got a run out. And but fair play to the Dortmund fans. There was no animosity whatsoever. Big handshakes, and guy who I was sitting next to in the match, I think he quite quickly realised, I think once we made it 3-0, who I supported. So he was asking, why are you here? Why Rangers and all this? And then kept in contact with him as well. So from a German perspective, and a few of the lads went over to Dortmund last year, and the boys sorted them out for tickets and stuff. So again, it's just that once you meet like-minded football fans, you tend to be quite good. But I say there was a few pictures got out with the fans. They wanted pictures with the flag and stuff, and it was no, it was good. It was very good.
Yeah, I love to hear that. That's brilliant. And I mean, did you stay in Dortmund that night? Were you able to go and sample the local delights at all?
No, I think it was straight back to Dortmund. Straight back to Dusseldorf. So we were on the train with our friends from the Glaswegian Loyal. So we caught up with a few of them, and I think it was a case of getting a cargo for the train journey back. And the train was an hour and a half, something like that, 45 minutes maybe. And so we just had a few beers, and then obviously good sing-song on the way back, and then into Dusseldorf. Went up to the bar quarter, had a few drinks up there. And then it was I think it was an early morning flight from memory, but you don't mind. It's one of them, the alarm sounds so much different after the European away win.
Absolutely. And did you have any, I mean, at that point, you've just beat the sort of the tournament favourites in their own backyard. Are you dreaming of possibly going all the way at that point, Jamie? Or is it just a case of looking ahead to that second leg and finishing the job off?
Yeah, I think everyone was just looking to that second leg, weren't they? But obviously, we know the power of Ibrox and what that could bring. But even still, it was going to take a monumental effort to get us over the line. As I said, the scoreline probably flattered Dortmund on the night. If you look back at the goals that referee again, who had I think he's shown his true colours over the World Cup, and I think a game recently over in Spain. He's Spanish, wasn't he? Yeah, it was he had an absolute stinker that night. So we probably should have won the game on the night, to be fair. But to get over the line was sensational. So
and I mean, we've went to a fair few European matches involving Rangers. Where does that rank for you in terms of games?
In terms of games, it's got to be right up there, to be honest. In terms of performance, results, stature of the opposition, right up there at the top. Obviously, you have special memories. I remember the first one was Porto away, so you remember that one, Ross McCormack. I say there's been more bad matches than good matches over the years. But in terms of the coming out the ground, just absolutely buzzing. I mean, nothing will ever beat Florence. Nacho Noble slotting that penalty. I don't think that feeling could be beat again, certainly from a football perspective. But that definitely ran it close in terms of performance and memories. So no, really good.
And I mean, could you envisage? I mean, what was that? I mean, for me, it's one of the most enjoyable seasons following Rangers. That run last season. Could you quite imagine that the run they would go on and obviously go within a sort of penalty kick away from winning the actual tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't have thought that at the time. Probably wasn't thinking that far ahead. But as the journey went on, the dream just grew, didn't it? And then the night against, obviously, the night I was in Leipzig as well, and then Braga than Leipzig, and then obviously on to Seville. So it was one of them. It still hurts, doesn't it? So you still think about what could have been. Obviously, we caught up pre-match, and we just thought, right, if we can just hold our own. I think we just needed a wee bit of luck on the night. I don't think we got it. I think we just probably needed a fully fit centre forward that could have done a wee bit better hold-up play. I mean, Aribo took the goal really well and obviously gave us a fantastic high for the 15-20 minutes we were in the lead, but we probably just didn't have that outlet to get over the line. But as I say, I was funny if I was talking about Gio today to my mate Warren in Belfast, and he was saying, I said, one thing about Gio, I said, for all his faults and everything, he gave us that adventure in Europe. And people say to me, oh, do you think if Gerrard had stayed, you'd have won the league? Or do you think you'd have done what he'd done in Europe? I think we would have won the league last year under Gerrard, but there's no way we'd have had them European trips. So, yeah, sometimes it'll be great to look back in years to come. It still feels a wee bit sore, but good memories.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jamie. I think I've always been forever grateful to Giovanni for providing that run in Europe last season. It was sensational. And just before you go then, get your thoughts on Michael Beale, of course, in charge. He's had an unbeaten start to life as Rangers manager. What have you made his start as boss? And what's your feelings towards it, the big one later on this month?
Yeah, really pleased. Yeah, I don't think we could have asked for much more. I mean, we were a few minutes away from being a perfect record, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
I think someone said it on one of the pods the other day. I can't remember where I heard it, but he actually feels and looks like a Rangers manager.
Yeah.
The way he conducts himself, the way he speaks, the way he is with the press. He doesn't strike me as a yes man. Obviously, time will tell in that front, but it almost like the players he's brought in, you can tell it's got an identity and a stamp towards him. And I think he gets it, and he gets the club. I think that one thing that did surprise me under Gio is he didn't seem to get the we have to win every single game. We have to win every single minute. And some of the obviously the away performances. I mean, he's had a tricky fixture card to come into, taking over a squad that did look naturally deflated. And you had Tillman's interview in the week. Obviously doesn't sound as if everyone was happy, everyone was loving it. So he's definitely given us the spark that we needed, and I think we done it at the right time. A couple of weeks earlier might have been a wee bit better, but who's to say we'd have got the reaction that quick? I think the time that we've done it, and the response from him and the players has been fantastic. We just need to try and find that level of consistency now throughout games, like we did at Tynecastle. But in terms of the big one at the end of the month, so yeah, looking forward to travelling up for that one. Obviously decent record at Hampden over the last couple of visits, so we'll just need to make sure that we've got a fully fit squad, decent options on the bench. I think that's where we've let ourselves down in years gone by. We haven't had anybody on the bench that could come on and make probably a positive impact. I think now you're picking your 11, but you've almost got 2 or 3 really good attacking options in our armoury now. Someone like Kemar Roof coming off to give us the option, or whatever he decides to go with, whether it be Cantwell. There's definitely good options in there. So yeah, nothing to fear from them, and we'll see how we get on.
Yeah. Fingers crossed that they do the business at Hampden. Well, it's been great having you on, Jamie. Thank you very much for reminiscing. It's of course the European action getting underway this week. It feels strange having no Rangers involvement, I've got to admit, but it's great to look back on one of the greatest ever wins in Europe, that's for sure. So thank you.
Cheers. No, great, pleasure, and hope to do it again soon with the next European adventure story.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, folks, thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now.